Shadow of Spider-Man. Lead writer, Christopher Ridgeway. Additional writers, William Reeg and Boone Jordan. Cast: Joshua Worthington, Aliases Black Wraith and Azure Spider, voiced by Christopher Ridgeway. Brandon Worthington, Alias Shift, voiced by William Reeg. Robert Schultz, Alias American Hurricane and Venom Symbiote, voiced by Andrew Mallin. Michael Evans, Aliases Necro and Carnage, and the Carnage Symbiote, voiced by Boone Jordan. Nobody, his alias without a name, and the Riot Symbiote, voiced by James Newman. Kimiko, alias Black Wraith, voiced by Danielle Smith. Benjamin Parker, alias Spider-Man, voiced by Taylor Joseph. Obsidian and the Scream Symbiote, voiced by Anajoe Skylark. Oliver Worthington, alias Nova, voiced by Jerome Gardner. Jermaine Williams, alias Velocity, and Victor Von Doom, voiced by Greggory Dechert. Jolt, voiced by Andrew Block. Minor Robot Woman and Newscaster, voiced by Lady Theta. Narrator, voiced by Marcus Ryans. Josh was putting on his gauntlets, fastening them into place, like a knight of old adorning his armor. Ah, the old days. Some people move on, some even retire. Josh did. But perhaps he retired far too soon. He'd grown restless, and the need to have the thrill of heroics called to him. He placed the trench coat on, with the hood and bandana combination. His costume is a trench coat, black jeans, bulletproof vest, combat boots, hood and bandana, and gloves. It was designed to be a more flashy black ensemble. The Black Wraith. That's what he was known as. For a time at least. A girl whom was like a daughter to him, Kimiko, or Kimmy, as her friends called her for short, had become the new Black Wraith. When they'd first met, she'd been a teenager born to Japanese immigrants, adopted out after her parents had long lost custody due to neglect. She was a metalhead, same as Josh. She'd always admired him as Black Wraith. By now, she was a woman in her 20s, and it felt fitting that she could continue that legacy. He'd pass on the mystical ghost powers to her, but he still had his own superhuman strength and extreme agility. She'd already had powers of her own, of course. A sonic scream. That's why she used to be known as Nightcry. In any case, she was the new Black Wraith. While he briefly pondered on if he'd have to change his name, he didn't put much thought into it. He just knew where he wanted to be. On the rooftops, swinging by the seam of his pants using his grappling hooks. As he finished putting on the outfit, he exited the apartment, a place he stayed at any time he was visiting New York City. His actual residence was outside of the city. He shot his grappling hook from the gauntlet to a nearby railing and he jumped out of the window. The adrenaline hit him as he felt the wind on his eyes and ears. He swung from rooftop to rooftop, a similar fashion to one of his inspirations as a superhero, the original Spider-Man. These days, Spider-Man was an old buddy of his, Ben Parker, son of the original. They hadn't talked since high school, but Josh would sometimes keep tabs on him. Josh saw a figure in the distance, ricocheting from wall to wall down the block. Josh recognized his son Brandon as a superhero Shift. Shift's mother had been Josh's now long deceased wife. Shift was wearing his normal outfit he'd wear as casual wear, but his clothes, skin, and hair had a silvery glow like that of steel. His exterior had the properties of a pinball, allowing him to bounce quickly from wall to wall, using the impact to push him forward. Josh swung nearby to them, and as they noticed him, they all landed on the roof of a 4-story building. Josh went straight to the point.
So, what did I miss?
Josh used a voice modulator in the past that he kept attached to his throat. His voice was a bit higher for his age. Not very intimidating, which was part of how being Black Wraith worked. But he had long since stopped using it when he lived in Oklahoma for a time, as his personality had become far less serious and more prone to wisecracks towards the end of his days as Black Wraith. During his glory days in New York, he still used it. He was back to living in New York now, but he still felt the modulator didn't suit him anymore. Schiff said,
I thought you were retired.
Josh smirked.
It didn't sit right with me. So?
Schiff sighed and said,
We're in pursuit of some symbiotes. I don't have the time to put this gently, so I'm just gonna say it. Carnage is holding Necro's body hostage. He led us into a trap. Currently, Riot is holding on to nobody. Scream is holding on to Nightcry. And while myself, American Hurricane, and Black Wraith here, we're all going to deal with it, Venom got loose and bonded to Hurricane.
Josh cringed a little.
American Hurricane deserves better.
American Hurricane, whose real name was Robert Schultz, was a superhero that was a longtime ally of Josh. They were also friends for a time, though they'd lost touch lately. Rob had been inspired by deceased heroes like Captain America and American Dream to take up a patriotic mantle for his persona. That, along with the wind powers, is how he came up with his name. Josh nodded slowly after thinking for a moment and said,
I'm going with you.
Try not to slow me down, Pops.
Schiff said with a chuckle. Josh smirked as they went in pursuit. Within moments, they saw Riot, Scream, and Carnage down below. The symbiotes themselves were living viruses that could appear as if they were a liquid substance, speaking of their own free will while binding to the flesh of their hosts. They each turned to look at the heroes, starting with Carnage first. Riot cautioned,
Older brother, we should keep fleeing. They have the upper hand.
Carnage laughed.
I'm done with the cowardice. We attack. Now!
Carnage proceeded to fire his symbiotic webbing to the nearby car, latching onto it, before launching a car at the heroes. Within Carnage, Josh could hear his buddy, Michael Levin, alias Necro, speak.
Get down!
Josh dodged as he said,
Did he just yeet a car at us just now? Seriously?
Schiff easily knocked the car aside with his sheer strength. Carnage laughed.
You better stop fighting it, Necro baby. I might have to hurt you.
Necro smirked from beneath the goop as he said,
Harder, Daddy.
Josh knew Necro all too well. They'd been superhero partners long before the two met Hurricane and his team of Velocity and Nightcry at the time. Velocity had super speed. Velocity went to a solo career after having a falling out with Hurricane, and by all accounts, it was going really well for him. He even had a movie. Necro had the same superhuman strength as Josh had, but was less nimble. But he made up for it with his borderline sociopathic sense of humor and his automatic rifles. Nightcry barely managed to say,
Guys! Get me out of this thing!
As things continued to be thrown, Josh managed to say,
Why not just use your sonic scream to escape?
Scream, the symbiote itself, laughed.
She knows that she did try such a thing. I would just open my being outside of her mouth to avoid touching me.
Maybe use your ghost powers.
Added Josh.
I don't know, but I can't go into ghost form. This thing blocks me from being able to.
Replied Kimiko. Carnage's arm formed into a massive battle axe as he laughed, saying,
You asked for this, folks.
He swung his axe-shaped arm at Josh, who dodged and laughed as he said,
That pun was almost as cheesy as the material Jolt often uses. Almost.
He fired the throwing knives from his wrist-mounted gauntlets at Carnage while saying,
Sorry, Necro. Hopefully this doesn't kill you. I can't allow him to kill people in the process.
Necro responded.
Nah, fuck it. Just fire at the Southern Man and see if you hit Slappy instead of me. Nah, it's cool. I'll live.
It was hard to tell if he was okay with it or totally against it for Josh. Scream tried to punch Josh while he was distracted, but he ducked just in time, and Scream smashed Carnage over the head. Carnage staggered slightly and knocked Scream flying backwards. Scream stuttered.
You hit us! One's older brother hit us!
Carnage growled.
You did it first. Stop complaining and just do your job.
At the same time, Shift was dealing with Riot. Riot punched Shift in the face and had a broken hand to show for it. Riot growled.
That was annoying.
Nobody, on the other hand, had other things to say.
Ow! My fucking hand! Oh, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, this is the worst fucking pain in my goddamn life! Shit! Sweet baby Jesus, if the flying spaghetti monster and Cthulhu are real, them too! Why do I have to be stuck in this situation? What did I do to deserve this? Isn't my face become some kind of fucking joke at this point?
Dad was right. You talk way too much. He didn't mention you were also a big baby, though. And apparently, curse like a sailor when in pain.
If I still had my guns, I'd shoot you out of spite for that. They would go straight through your...
We get it already.
Shift said as he punched Riot. Unfortunately, Riot tanked the hit and this time used added strength to knock Shift onto his back. To clarify, nobody is an alias. His real name is unknown. He was a mercenary and hitman with the same strength and agility as Josh, but with an added bonus: photographic reflexes. Sometimes people called him the second coming of the late Taskmaster, a supervillain who also has photographic reflexes. To explain the power in short, he could master any type of movement even after only seeing it once. This included martial arts and just about anything else. And yes, he's aware there used to be a Mr. Nobody. No relation, just a happy accident. Kimmy shouted.
Everyone! I didn't want to do this, but I have no choice! Cover your ears!
Josh said,
Easier said than done.
as he dodged another bladed strike from Carnage, but did as told. Shift could use his abilities to handle things in that department, simply growing material to protect his hero. Suddenly, Kimmy let out an abnormally high sonic scream. This was far more potent than her more focused ones. Those hit a specific target. This would hit everyone and everything, more or less. She'd probably damage her own hearing this time, but she had little choice. Scream was shrieking in pain as she was gradually shifting off of Kimmy, who had continued doing her sonic scream, even as it was doing a great deal of harm to her own body in the process. As Carnage and Riot, still holding on to the bodies of Necro and Nobody, were fleeing, Shift was quick to give chase. The Scream symbiote fled into the sewers as Kimmy collapsed. Josh walked over and picked her up. Kimmy coughed as she was being held in Josh's arms.
You okay, kiddo?
Said Josh. She was hardly a child anymore, but to him, she was still that teenager girl that fought alongside him, Hurricane and the others way back. She managed a weak...
Thanks for carrying me.
She shuddered.
I'm going to need more therapy, but I'll be alright.
Josh said,
Hey, no problem. You just take it easy and don't push your vocal cords any further. You'll probably recover, but let's just get you to a hospital, just as a precaution.